Schuyler Bailar,
The first transgender male.
The first openly transgender athlete.
the first ever transgender person to play on an NCAA men's team.
Testosterone is one of the only arguments about why trans women shouldn't compete in women's sports. Could you maybe present the key arguments why you disagree with them?
There is available research that supports that testosterone suppression does produce meaningful competition between cis and trans women. Michael Phelps produces half the levels of lactic acid. He's got twice the lung capacity of the average person. But when people talk about that, what do they say? Wow. If those differences exist in the women's category, it is immediately considered unfair.
If I were to decide tomorrow that I was a 47-year-old woman, should I be allowed to go shower in a women's locker room?
There's been no actual effect on sexual assault statistics across the states when this was kind of implemented.
It is playing on real fears that I think are valid. We do need to protect women and girls.
How optimistic are you, Schuyler, and what do you think the next steps are now?
So I think now is probably a good time to move on to the sports discussion, which we've been leading up to just because it's hard not to mention it when you're discussing this. But I love the way you did it in the book where it's kind of, you present the claim and then you kind of break it down. So for example, you said testosterone is one of the only semi-thoughtful arguments about why trans women shouldn't compete in women's sports. So in that interest, for our listeners who haven't read the book, could you maybe present some of the key arguments that are made and then why you disagree with them?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we'll start with the one you named. So the only truly semi-thoughtful and semi-emphasis on semi-thoughtful argument that a lot of people fall back on when they say trans women shouldn't be included is about testosterone levels. They'll say, well, there's higher levels of testosterone that will usually they use incorrect language. They'll say that men have over women. I like to always start with reminding people when we're talking about trans women in sports, we're still not talking about men. If you want to talk about biological differences, great. I'm not ignoring those. We just need to be specific, right? So we can say higher levels of testosterone in women. We can say those assigned male at birth. We can say those with testes or those who have experienced testosterone-driven puberty. But we need to be specific, not only because that reduces transphobia, but it's also more accurate, right? If we just said men, what are we talking about, right? So as again, also transphobic. So first thing is that language. The second thing is when we think about testosterone at all elite levels that include trans women in the women's category, you actually have to reduce your testosterone levels in order to compete in the women's category. And you can't just do it one day and then show up the next day. They all have a time requirement. The lowest one that I've seen is 1 year. The highest is 3 years. So 3 years on testosterone suppressions, proving that your testosterone levels have been lowered. So this is really important to recognize because a lot of the disinformation, the lies about trans women in sports are based something along the lines of, well, they can just say they're a woman and be on the women's team. No, they can't. In all elite levels, again, of women's sports that allow trans women to compete in the women's category, there is a requirement of reducing your testosterone levels for at least 1 year and up to 3 years and proving that with your labs submitted, as well as something that says you're trans and like a doctor's note basically certifying you as who you are. So there's a lot of requirements, not to mention that even getting access to that hormone suppression and gender affirming care, that's what we call it, gender affirming hormones, even just getting access to that is difficult. So the concept that somebody could just show up at the doctor's office and be like, give me the hormones, that also is very difficult in the United States. And in the UK, there has been lots of legislation trying to stop people from accessing gender affirming care as well. So all of this is to highlight that it is not easy to show up as a trans woman and show that you want to play in the women's category. So that's the first thing. The testosterone levels, it's a pretty bogus argument to say the T levels are higher, therefore they can't play. The second part of that argument, though, is this concept of a legacy effect. And what they talk about with legacy effects is, okay, yes, we've reduced the testosterone levels currently, but there has been a history of elevated testosterone levels, and that has a, quote, legacy, right, a leftover effect on one's body. And there's been some like some research on that, not a lot, and mostly not on trans women, because I think a lot of the research has been focused on cisgender people. But there is available research that supports that testosterone suppression does produce meaningful competition between cis and trans women. And there's a recent study that reviewed 11 years, I believe it was 11 years of research on trans women in elite level sports. And they found, and I quote, "There is no significant advantage that trans women have over cisgender women when they have undergone testosterone suppression." So the research that is available clearly states there's no evidence for this advantage that people claim that trans women have because of testosterone legacy effects. But I also want to add, let's just say there is. Let's just say we have the research. I've clearly stated that exists, right? We've clearly found no significant biological advantage. But let's pretend that there is some legacy effect of testosterone just for a second. That would then mean that there's some group of women who have some level of testosterone effects that have continued past whatever point they have had suppression. And therefore, maybe there is a difference in their body that is a result of testosterone. And I'm saying maybe because of the next thing I'm about to say, we actually don't know that testosterone is the primary driving factor in every single sport of people's benefits, right? Of being better at one sport or the other. So the thing that I think I want to offer is that even if there is some difference, how do we know A, that it's definitely an advantage in their sport? And B, why is that the only thing that we're focused on? Why about there's so many other different advantages that people have in sports that cause them to be better or worse at a sport, but we are so focused on the legacy effects of testosterone for trans women, right? And the reality there, I'll just give you a really easy example. And Ollie, you mentioned my book, so this is in the book for those who haven't read it. Michael Phelps, you all have heard of him. If you haven't, you've truly been living under a rock, right? Winningest Olympian of all time. Michael Phelps produces half the levels of lactic acid than the average athlete. Half the levels of lactic acid. That's crazy, right? That's lactic acid, for anybody who doesn't know, that's the substance that builds up in your muscles and makes them burn and makes you say, ouch, I have to stop. And he produces half the levels of the average athlete. Not the average person, average athlete. The other side, he's got twice the lung capacity of the average person. Twice the lung capacity in a sport where you hold your breath. Is that a benefit? I feel like unequivocally, yes, right? He's got plenty of other things. We'll name those two as the main biological advantages. There's no contesting these. You can literally Google Michael Phelps biological advantage and see whole reports people have done on his body. But when people talk about that, what do they say? Wow, amazing. Michael Phelps is a genetic freak. Incredible. That's amazing. And they praise him. Same thing with LeBron James or Shaquille O'Neal or anybody else in the men's category. If they're a foot taller than everybody else, it's, oh, that's incredible. But if those differences exist in the women's category, it is immediately considered unfair. And I think we need to consider why. Right? What are the differences between examining the men's category versus the women's category, and which women in the women's category are the ones that are consistently being called out because they are largely already marginalized women, Black and brown women, trans women, and intersex women. And we have to start thinking about this more expansively. This is not just about protecting women's sports and then therefore excluding trans women because of some perceived biological difference. This is about trying to maintain a very specific view of who is acceptable in women's sports. And it's not Black women, and it's not brown women, and it's not trans women, it's not intersex women. Again, it's a very specific view. So I could go on forever, but I feel like I should pause there.
Yeah. In sports, of course, the discussion is focused around a lot. And already people don't even know that this has to happen. But the discussion is focused a lot around medical transitions. So whether that be, it's primarily obviously hormone based, but of course, I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions, even for people who see themselves as trans positive or as an ally, is that kind of medical transition is kind of what creates transness. And I was wondering whether you could unpack a little bit the relationship between those two and how it's actually not so simple.
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people use medical status, if you will, in many different arenas, but particularly in trans identity, as what is validating of transness, right? Oh, have you transitioned, right? Or have you gotten the full transition? And this ranges from any access to transition to you're only really trans if you've gotten surgery, basically. And these stereotypes, I think, are largely based in the reduction of gender to body, gender to biology, and people to their body parts. And it's not that these aren't important. You know, for a lot of trans people, gender affirmation and changing bits of our presentations of our bodies is important, right? And sometimes for some people, life-saving. And it's not the only thing that we are. And I think for me, I'll just speak from my own perspective. Before I transitioned, so before I got top surgery, before I started testosterone, I was still trans. Maybe some people didn't perceive me that way, but I have always been me. And I didn't come up one day and be like, today I'm becoming trans. Like, it's not a becoming, it's an is. And the becoming is how much I present or how much I affirm or what I show to others, confidence that I, gathered and so on. But I've always been trans and I've always been me. I just have learned how to express that and I've learned how to affirm that. And that's where the medical aspects can come in. But there are some trans people that don't transition, that don't ever shift anything about themselves. And that's perfectly okay.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that short clip with Schuyler Bailar. If you want to check out the full episode, click right here. Since you got to the end, I'm assuming you liked the video. So please leave a like. It really helps the channel, and subscribe because we've got loads more like that coming very soon.